so today is story time day. I thought I would do just like a little sit down video. Y'all, I just popped some clip-ins in my hair, so you may see some like short hair sticking out, and I just got a trim, so yeah, just kind of ignore that if you can. But yeah, I thought I would do the story time of my dad. A lot of things have been happening. Christmas just came around, and I love how y'all talk to me and you ask me stuff. But people did ask me about my family. For those of you that don't know, I'm half Nigerian, and people say things in the comments like I'm supposed to have like this traditional Nigerian upbringing. Well, my dad is the one who's Nigerian, and usually when your parents aren't together, which they aren't, usually the mom takes them. So my mom is an African American woman, and she's not going to have like Nigerian types of traditions or anything. I was raised in an African American home, and I live in America, so there goes that for an answer. They're doing a little bit of construction outside, so guys, just try to ignore that if you hear the noise. Okay, so I'm a Pisces, and I was born March 8th, 1992, and I have brothers and sisters, and I have a sibling that is with my mom and my dad. So my mom and my dad in the 80s, she had children already, and when she met my dad, I mean, they pretty much just fell in love like pretty much instantly. It started off because my mom was in Houston, and my dad, and I guess I could tell you guys a little bit of the background of my dad, and then I'll tell you like how they met and how everything came about and everything. So obviously he's from Nigeria. He's from Imo State, Owerri to be exact, and he came down to America with his brother in the 80s. Now back then, a lot of Africans, just in general, because Africa is a continent, it's not a little like state like people think. Whenever they're referring to somebody, they just say Africa, but they don't know that there are different countries inside of there, and states and little cities and like little places or whatever. So there were a lot of people like Eritreans, and a lot of them were getting like granted access for different reasons. Obviously it was much more easier to get into the country and actually stay than it is now, because of different things. I won't even get into that. I'm not even specifically sure. Nevertheless, to say, a lot of Africans just in general populated to America in the 80s, and my dad and his brother was one of them. So my dad ended up getting a degree, and back then, a lot of times when you first came to America, you just have like a suitcase and a suit. So that's what my dad came with. He had some suits, he had shoes, he had a suitcase, a little bit of money, but you know, you really just came down here to make a living and a life for yourself, and then you would send money back home. People still think that America is just like a gold mine. They feel like there's just gold in the street or something because of the way that it's made in the movie. So my dad was coming down here. A lot of times people think that we don't like that it's just going to be an easy life, when most likely you had it easier in your country. Like your country is probably more laid back in America. In America, you literally work to your knuckles and you just die. You know, you do a little bit of fun, but really you actually live to work. So, you know, my dad, one of the things that he did was he opened up a business, which was a hair salon. It was in Houston, Texas, which is where he met my mom. So him and his brother Tony ended up opening a hair salon there. And my mom was looking for a job. She came in, she applied, she ended up getting the job, and then she started dating my dad. Now, especially like back then, you didn't date very long. You met each other, you knew you loved each other, so you just got married. My mom and my dad ended up getting married, and then they ended up having my other sibling. So that was the first kid. Now with my mom and my dad's relationship, one of the things that caught me off guard was it pretty much started off with a lie. It may not be a big lie, but a lie is a lie, you know? So when my dad, like I said, first came, he had like a suit, and so that's kind of like how they dressed back then. A lot of them, you know, they wear sandals, but they would wear like dress suits. And my dad is tall, and he looked mature for his age back then. So my mom first met him, mind you, my mom is 10 years older than my dad. He told my mom that he was like in his 30s, but really he was only 23 or 24. And because my mom didn't really ask, she just saw the suit and she saw he was tall and he spoke pretty well. She just thought, oh, he's in his 30s. So anyway, when they went to go get insurance for a car, the insurance was really high. And the lady said, oh, well, you know, he's 24. And my mom was just like really surprised. So that was like one of the things that it's like, you go that long of a relationship and you don't say how old you are. That's kind of weird, you know what I mean? But whatever. So like I said, they went on to have their first kid. Then they had me in 1992. And by that time, their marriage wasn't going great at all. It was pretty much crumbling. My dad had a lot of infidelity. He was cheating the whole time. He had my mom moving around like every few months to a different state, wherever the money was. I guess his brother ended up getting shot and killed. It was like a robbery or something gone wrong. And that was like the first year of their marriage. And that really put a dent on it. My dad, him and his brother, they were very, very close in age. They were the closest. And they came down here together to make a life and everything. And he left behind a wife. So that was one thing. And then my dad's sister, she ended up passing away, giving childbirth back in Nigeria. So that was like another hit to the marriage. It was just like deaths were just happening. And that was taking a toll. But my dad he was just like, you're just one of those people who you can't believe anything that he says. He's a pathological liar on top of that. He would tell my mom one thing, he would lie about finances, and he also would use her for just anything. He would use her like for my mom's credit. You know, he really wanted to show off to his family like what kind of person he was. So, you know, my mom had bought a house when she was 23. She still had that house, and my dad said, hey, you know, I gotta pay this bill for something, right? So my mom gave my dad the money. He promised her, and they were already married at that point, you know, that he would give it back to her, and he didn't. My mom ended up losing her house because she had gave him pretty much a lot of the last of her money because she believed in him, and he had started businesses before, so she really believed that he wouldn't let something like this go. So yeah, my mom ended up losing her house over him. So that was just one of the ways that my dad he's just a very manipulative person. And he will use you to get to wherever he needs to go, and just like for the sake of showing face for family. And I've noticed that with like a lot of Nigerian families, like they have to make it seem like everything is perfect and that they're perfect and their kids are doing better than that person's kids, and you know, so on and so forth. So whatever. So after that, that was another hit to their marriage because my mom kind of saw like his patterns. He wasn't keeping up with things he would say. My mom had to work really hard even when she was like 9 months pregnant. And you guys saw the story of my birth. I did a story on that, and I told you guys about how my dad was. He was very jealous of the other kids because my mom had, you know, several other kids when they got married, and he wanted all of the attention on him, even during my childbirth, you know, me being born. Everything was just about him at the end of the day. He was very jealous, and like if anybody on the outside knew my dad, he was the most caring, loving person. Like I remember in school, like kids wanted my dad because he was so nice to them and everything, and I'll get to that in a second. So my parents ended up splitting up, thank God, in like 1990, I think like 5 or so. My mom was still living in Houston. I don't know where my dad was. He just went off. I remember my mom was at the payphone one day, and she wanted to make like a last-ditch effort to save the marriage, and she called him. You know, we didn't have cell phones back then. This was 20 plus years ago. And he had like a woman next to him, and you know, my mom was like, but she didn't know that when she called him. She said, hey, you know, it was something like that. And he said, you know, I don't want to be with you anymore, everything. My dad had kicked us out of the house. We were out on the street and everything, and he did not care. So my mom ended up, I remember we were like homeless for a while. We were living in like homeless shelters. We were living with family on and off. And my dad was just staying in a 2-bedroom apartment that he kicked my mom out of. And meanwhile, you know, my mom had lost her house, everything, because she was just trying to fulfill his hopes and dreams. And to my dad's family, he had told the family that he was still married. Everything was great. He lied about having more children. He was just really like a scary pathological liar. So they didn't get a divorce. I don't think my mom could even afford the divorce, and my dad was trying to take us away because he was scared of like child support. So it was easier on my mom, because she couldn't afford lawyers, to just, you know, keep us with her and not divorce him. So, you know, my dad is out doing his thing. whatever. And now when I was a kid, I was very scared of my dad. I didn't really have any recollection of him. Like, I don't remember him that much. I don't really have that many pictures with him. I'll insert some, but these are pictures of us visiting my dad. You know, my mom never tried to keep us away from him. It was him who just didn't want to see us. But you know, all those pictures, my mom would always get us all dressed up, and she would take us to go see him, and he wouldn't hug us. He wouldn't tell us that he loved us. He would just take pictures so that he could send back to Nigeria for his family to go see. Now remember, this was the 90s, so we didn't have Facebook where you could just post pictures. My dad would take, you know, Polaroids. He had a big digital camera, you know, VHS camera that the actual VHS went in there, and he would do like little videos just showing that he's a good father and that things are going great. And now I know that now, but when I was a kid, I just thought, oh my gosh, you know, my dad loves us. My mom doesn't have a camera, you know, she doesn't want to videotape us. She can't afford those things, you know, but my dad can, and he loves us so much that he wants to capture these memories. Little did I know it was for just to show off to his family back home. Now, my mom scared us with my dad. She would tell us stories of things that he would do. And now that I'm older, I actually believe them. Now, when I was younger, I believed them. When I got a little bit older, I was just like, she's ridiculous, you know what I'm saying? But now that I'm older, I can totally see these things happening. My mom would say how my dad would do little things. Like, he would put too much salt in the food. He would make food like kind of like unbearable to eat. You know, Nigerians eat really, really spicy food, but my dad would cook like very, very little bit of food, and he would make it really spicy for us, and he would go out to eat. He did very like really scary, spiteful things that now when I watch like criminal shows, I'm like, this sounds kind of like similar. Like, they would do like crazy stuff to people's food and stuff, you know, but whatever, I'm just saying. And a big incident happened, which I would do a story time on that later on, but needless to say, my mom didn't do anything wrong. She did something that all black parents do. They ended up putting us in foster care, and I lived with my sister for a little bit. She couldn't take it anymore. I personally don't really think, I mean, I know that she was young, she was just married, so this was happening, but she, you know, she didn't want us anymore. She couldn't handle it, so she sent us to go live with my dad, me and my other sibling. So we went to go live with my dad, and honestly, I was fucking scared because all these horror stories. And honestly, he didn't sound like a good person. All these years, he had never tried to see us. And when I first met my dad, he was so nice. I mean, I couldn't believe it. I was like, oh my gosh, you know, I wish that maybe, you know, something, you know, I wish that, I didn't want my parents to be together. I don't want to get it twisted. I loved how my mom was. I loved her. But I wanted him all around. Like, I can honestly say, guys, I'm a daddy's girl, but I never got that chance. And he doesn't want it anyway. So he went and, you know, he bought us bikes the first day we got back. I had never had a bike, but something happened where I just jumped on the bike and I just started riding. I had been practicing for years, could never actually fully like turn the wheel the whole way. And I would always fall off. I would just, you know, roll on it, and I would be using other people's bikes. But that day I got on and I just flew. I just started riding. So, you know, it was just really happy. My dad ended up, he said, it was like the second day, no, we were living with him for about a month, because I remember school ended, and he had like this lady named Kate or something like that he was friends with, and she ended up helping him kind of with us, and it was perfect. I loved it. I loved being with my dad. Like, when it was just us, he was just a really great father. He didn't really know what he was doing, but he was trying, and that's what I liked. And it didn't make me miss my mom so much. At that point, I hadn't seen my mom in like a year. It had been years. They literally took us out of her arms that day. Now, about 2 months in, I don't even know, it was maybe like a month, my dad brings this lady in, and I'm gonna have to do a whole new story on this woman because she is a whole new thing on her own. I always kind of like refer to her, but I never go into detail because I don't even know if I'm ready for it. But let's just say that, like, he had like this girlfriend. She wasn't a girlfriend, she was more like a friend with benefits who was infatuated with my dad. Now, he's not a bad looking man. I look a lot like him, like a mixture of him and my mom, but he's very good looking and he's tall, and, you know, a lot of women are kind of like attracted to that. You know, he's very like stern and very like set in his ways, so, you know, women like that. And he was just really popular with women. And he just could not keep his dick to himself. So he had her living, he put us with her. One day he's like, hey, I got this friend, I'm going on a trip, I'll be back next week, and she's just gonna take care of you for the week. That week turned into a month. We had no money. Like, he left us alone with this woman, and she was evil as hell and jealous. And anyway, you know, weeks and weeks go by, my dad's not coming back, and you know, we're stuck with this woman. She didn't even know how to open the gas tank. That she did not know my dad, and I know that he just kind of found someone who was like a fling. So now, before this happened, where he just put us on with this stranger, my dad had taken us on a trip to Kansas City. He took us to Walmart and he bought us like everything. He told us, it doesn't matter, get whatever you want. Me and my brother, we filled up our carts at Walmart. I got so much Lisa Frank, guys. Like, I still have some of it. Like, it was some really good shit. I bought a Lisa Frank backpack, like just really nice stuff, and I was just so happy. I had never, you know, had these things. I had lived a very minimal life with my mom. You know, we all slept in the living room. She had a bed in her room, but we were all so tight-knit and so close, and my mom did really well with little bit. And now I see how it wouldn't have worked. My dad is a very flashy guy, and my mom is a hippie, and I really don't even know how they could have even gotten together. Even now, my mom lives with, she has the basic, like, few clothes that she wears. She's always had, like, dreadlocks, or I think when she met my dad, like, she went, like, platinum blonde for, like, a couple months. My mom is very, very fair skinned, and she just kind of did her own thing, and she just really believed in love. So it's like, they're just very opposites, and I think my dad was just very attracted to my mom. And my mom also, another reason why they stayed married, like, they never got divorced, because my dad, greedy, he wanted his green card, and you have to stay married for at least 10 years back then. Now I think it's like 2 or 3 years, but you have to, like, prove it. So my mom stayed married to him long enough so that my dad could stay in our lives, because he kind of promised to if he got the green card. He never did any of that. So yeah, my dad got it through her, but I know it was a real marriage. I know that they really loved each other, because my dad is not the marrying type. So the simple fact that he even, you know, he's not even gonna marry somebody for a green card because he loves Nigeria so much. So I know that my dad really loved my mom, but the green card was definitely a perk. I'm not gonna give him that. Anyway, back and forth. I mean, we had a really good time in Kansas City. We were there for like the whole weekend. He rented a hotel. He took us to our first, like, you know, place where, like, the Chinese restaurant, where they would cook everything in front of you. Like, I had never seen that before. It was amazing, and the food was so good, and we just had so much fun. We went to different factories and everything. It was great. And then, you know, we come back home, and then that's when he left us with the girlfriend. Anyway, the girlfriend was extremely abusive. My brother got the worst hand of it, and it's even kind of like worse seeing somebody that you love, you know, my brother, you know, who you had been through a lot with, and she used a lot of, like, secondhand abuse with me on him. Like, she would abuse him, but I had to be there. It was very weird. And then she would abuse me, and it was just like, and my dad didn't do anything about it. Now, this is where more of it comes into play. So, you know, he had this woman, her name is Ovida D. Bell. I wrote about her in my blog, so you guys, sometimes when you say her, talk about her, like, in my earlier videos in the comments, because you would read my blog and you knew who she was. So her name was, yeah, Ovida Denise Bell. I don't care. She's not on any social network because this is what she does. So my dad left us with this woman, and, like, he didn't care about anything. First of all, he was dating a lot of other women, and she was really jealous. Now, I don't know what she was, honestly. She was working as a security guard, and I think she was honestly just like a fling. Like I said earlier, it was never meant to be anything serious, but she loved my dad so much, and she was willing to take care of us for a little minimal amount of money just to keep everybody alive, honestly. My dad would give her about $100 a week for groceries, and I was feeding 3 people plus my dad, so it was feeding 4 people for a week. We would always go to Aldi's. He would give her $100, and that was, you know, for the week, and she would do that. And then she would send us off to school, and she, I hate even talking about it. I can't even doing a sit down video, honestly, because it's just so, like, difficult to talk about, but whatever. You know, my dad, he completely just neglected us. He would go weeks without speaking to us. We never did anything to him. It wasn't like a punishment or anything. He was just disinterested in being a dad. He felt like he had did everything in the beginning by buying us bikes. My dad would never buy us clothes. I was wearing clothes from like 2nd grade in the 5th grade. And guys, I was tall. Like, I'm 5'8" right now, but like in school, I was taller than some of my teachers. I was like 5'5" in like 2nd grade, when most kids were like 4'10", and some of them were like 5'2" maybe. But a lot of adults are like 5'2", so I was really tall, you know. And then I shot up. I was 5'6", 5'7", and my dad would maybe buy us like a pair of shoes and a pair of jeans. But my dad, he would be with these women. He would always have new cologne, new suits. He was always taking pictures. He would always, like once every couple months, he would get us together and he would have us take pictures, and he would, you know, videotape our birthdays, and he would really try to make them really nice so that he could send them back to family. And then once ever so often, I would talk to my grandma in Nigeria. She actually died a few years ago. That's where I got my name from, Chinyere. So everything was for show, for show. So yeah, so that was pretty much it. I lived with my dad for 2 years. I started living with him in 2000, and it was nothing but, you know, neglect, abuse, like just years of it. And he completely ignored us, and I think my dad honestly hated us, and we didn't even do anything to him, and so I don't really get it. And I think that was where, like, I don't think that my dad liked being a father. He had us at a really young age. Well, it wasn't really that young, honestly. He met my mom at like 24, and she was 34. He had my brother when he was like 27, and then he had me at 29. So, I mean, I know that that's like, but it was like back in the 80s and 90s. So people were having kids like really young. And then my mom was like my mom was 39 when she had me. So, you know, he was dating a bunch of other women with children and things. But my dad, he really just wanted to show his family that he was living the American dream. My dad did not care about actually going forth with the marriage. For what everybody, and I'm going to talk about this more at the end to kind of talk to you guys about how things have come about. This was going on like this, you know, we would take pictures, we were being mistreated, but I didn't really get what was going on. As a kid, this woman scared the hell out of me. She would beat us, and then when my dad would come home, if, you know, she would be very, 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 very nice to us. Now, because I was very, like, scared and timid, I didn't think that I could just use this to my advantage. Like, I could literally just tell my dad, like, hey, you know, she's mistreating us. Because I remember one day, she was really mean to us that day. She was really mean. She woke up yelling at us. She was just throwing shit at us as we were walking out the door going to school. And I was like, I'm going to tell my dad. And I was scared that entire day when I got to school because I had never talked back to this woman. When I got back home, she had everything laid out. She was extremely nice to us, and I thought she's gonna be nice to us from now on, and she wasn't. Honestly, the day after, she was mean, angry, and then she would take us to go see my dad, like, cheat. My dad, I don't even know if this was cheating, honestly, guys, because she wasn't even his girlfriend. She was like a babysitter, but my dad was dating this woman named Nettie, and he would always go to her house. I remember she lived at Tudor Heights. Oh, I just remember that. And we went over there, you know, it's back in Nebraska, and we would sit outside for like an hour and park right next to my dad's car, and just, for what? And my dad would just, I could see my dad's kind of like shadow in her apartment, just sitting down watching TV, hanging out, and just other, like, nothing. So I didn't even know what to think of it. And then she would make us feel bad for her, and I didn't feel bad at all for her and things. So honestly, it went on like this for years. My school grades plummeted. I was being bullied at school because of my clothes and my height, just everything. She would do my hair, but that was pretty much like the gist of it. She would ask my dad for clothes, and she would buy us clothes, but she would guilt trip the hell out of us, so I didn't even want them. She would put them on layaway for like 6 months. By that time, I had pretty much grown out of my clothes, and then she would say, you know, you better do this because I bought you this, and she would guilt trip us even into eating food. I never had an appetite. I was extremely skinny. My brother, he ate his fillings, so he was gaining a bunch of weight, and she would kind of like force feed us too, and I would just not eat, you know, and I would always get whooped for that. So my brother ended up gaining a lot of weight. So after a few years, my mom had to go to classes. She had to do a lot of stuff. She didn't really have money for a lawyer, but she ended up getting us back. And I remember like it was yesterday. Like, she started off doing, you know, my dad, first of all, my mom had no money, and my dad still made my mom pay child support. It was $25 a month, and I ended up having to pay that off when I got older, because so that, you know, she wouldn't get in trouble or whatever. So I was in 5th grade, like midway through, when my mom got custody of us. There was like a big thing. I told my teachers about the woman who was abusing us, and I told my dad that she was abusing us. He made, you know, she left. And we were glad that she was gone, because they had gotten into a big fight, and that's when we told our dad. And then she was back within a couple weeks, because I guess she had like sweet talked him, and my dad really didn't want to be with us. You know, he was always with his girlfriends every day. He pretty much lived at the other girls' house. He had 2 different girlfriends, you know, like simultaneously. So he didn't want to live with us. He didn't talk to us. Sometimes my dad would go like months, like I said, without talking to us. He worked a night shift, so he would be sleeping all day. And then we would be at school when he would go to work. So I would see my dad pass through, and he knew that we would be awake. And yeah, he would never talk to us. And I started writing in my diary. I have diaries from like 2000, 1999. And I wrote about them, and I spoke really like truthfully about the situations that were going on. And she ended up finding them, and she took them, and my dad did not speak to me for about 5 months after that, because he saw the things that I was saying about him and the lady. So yeah, that's what happened with that situation. I mean, honestly guys, I wish I could give you more details about my dad, but I really can't. That's the most that I knew about him. I lived with that man for 2 years. Out of those 26 months, 27 months, I think I saw my dad. So I had 2 birthdays. My brother had 2 birthdays. He made sure to show up for that so he could show the Nigerians how we were doing. And I remember he would work these jobs. Like I remember he picked up a job at Payless so he could get a big discount on clothes. I mean on shoes. And he bought home like 40 pairs of shoes one day. He had got a really big discount. And some of them were even my size. And he said, yep, you know, he sprawled it on the floor. And me and my brother, we were like, oh my gosh. And he said, yep, I'm sending it back home to Nigeria. And I just was like, wow. This is what I have to look forward to, because he would be like, you're gonna marry a Nigerian man? I was like, hell no. Like, hell fucking no. Is this what they do? No way. And I mean, it was just like, I was constantly getting my feelings hurt. You know, like I said, we were being abused at home. Then I would go to school and I was getting teased, and he would constantly be buying dresses for these, you know, my nieces, my cousins in Nigeria and other family members to show he was like the big man. And meanwhile, I'm high watering. I'm wearing the same clothes every other day. I'm wearing maybe hand-me-downs, stuff that my dad had at a gas station that he was managing or working at. You know, I would be wearing like Costco t-shirts to school and shit. My dad really did not care about us. Like, he honestly did the bare minimal for us. For 2 pivotal years of my life, I had no voice. I was not allowed to speak. I would get hit if I said things. And I just have a really like hard time even explaining myself as an adult. And I know that a lot of that has to do with the 2 years that I was living with my dad. Even my brother, guys, like, I don't want to start crying, but like, even with my brother, things are going on that I can't talk about. And it just hurts. My brother got it the worst. And I had to watch. And I have like so much guilt. That's why in my vlogs sometimes I'm like, sometimes in my vlogs I'm like, every time I'm saying that I have more stuff going on than anybody even knows, I am always talking about my brother. he's having a huge identity crisis because of the way that my dad treated us. I hate it. Even with my dating life, it's not that I had like, I've had a bad time picking people, and also I've stayed in relationships longer than I should have, and I know that my life would be entirely different if I had a father in my life. Now, this is where the more hurtful stuff happens. Even, like, it's even possible. Okay, I'm gonna definitely try to get through this. So last year during Father's Day, well, let me tell you guys something. Now, I joined Facebook back in like 2009, I think. 2010 for sure. I've been on there like 7 years, and when I first got on there, I didn't understand how it worked. I had a Nigerian name, so I just used my real name. And all of a sudden, a bunch of Nigerians just started adding me, and some of them were trying to talk to me, and there were women who had my same last name, men who had my same last name. I'm pretty sure Ogazi, whatever, it's a very common name. Chinyere is probably like freaking Samantha in America. You know what I mean? I'm pretty sure these are very common names. I don't really know anything about Nigeria because my dad, he only spoke it when he was talking to family members, and he never made mention of even being it. I didn't know he was until my mom told me, honestly. He would show up at my school wearing a freaking dashiki, guys. At the house, like, being Nigerian was denounced. He only used it as like a public thing. And that's what I'm saying, like, my dad was two different people. He was not an African man at the house. He was very like, he wasn't nothing, pretty much, honestly. And then, you know, at home, you know, I was really outgoing in school. I really tried to make friends. You know, my dad, we had cable, but we were not allowed to watch it. We had to watch the Catholic network, one channel, and we saw the same shit every morning. Even my brother, he started going crazy. He thought he was Catholic, and he did that to us for about 9 months. Me and my brother, we stayed in our rooms. We would go out to play like sometimes, but honestly, we never really went outside. We were just locked in that one bedroom. I mean, we were pretty much locked in our rooms, and it was a 2-bedroom, and me and my brother had to share a bed until she finally like convinced him to you know, get us a bunk bed. And we had so much room in our room, you know. My dad wouldn't update the computer. We had to take turns, and sometimes me and my brother, we would sneak and we would change the channel when they weren't home, because they would leave us alone all the time, and we were so scared when we saw them coming upstairs. Well, his girlfriend, his hoe, coming upstairs. We were so scared. We would try to get the house in place, and we would sit down, turn it back to the Catholic channel. But the television that he had, it was broken. It would always blink blue ever so often, so we never even really watched TV that much. You know, we were just doing homework, and she couldn't help us with homework because she wasn't smart, and she would hit us if we didn't get it right. My brother was doing pretty well in school. He really put himself into art, and the only thing I had was writing. And after like being there for about 8 months, they had already taken that away from me. So at that point, I didn't have anything. I couldn't write. I had nobody to talk to. My mom was gone. They had cut off all contact from my brothers and sisters. My sister, who I had lived with, my other 2 brothers, like, they had cut off all contact. My sister told me that she would call, but the phone would just be ringing. We weren't allowed to answer the phone. So for 2 years, I was literally being like brainwashed and controlled, and I didn't even know it. So back to Facebook. This is where it comes into. So last year during Father's Day, this girl, first of all, she befriended me on Facebook years ago. Now, like I said, a lot of girls had the same name, Ogazi. This girl just happened to be my cousin, and I didn't know it. She had added me on Facebook, and she would message me, and she would be like, "Hi dear, how are you?" Now, this was back when I was like 17, and I was like, who is this weirdo? Like, all these foreign people are adding me, and I'm like, who are y'all? You know what I mean? So I just was like, I would be nice, and I would say, "Hi, how are you? Hey." She would be like, "Hi, I'm doing good, dear." And then I wouldn't hear back from her for like a week later. She would be like, "Hi dear, how?" And it was just the same thing over and over. So I was like, okay. So anyway, I just stopped messaging her because I didn't know her. She was weird. She never introduced herself, okay? 7 years go by. This girl is seeing me. You know, I'm posting pictures. I would even say, you know, "Oh, you look great on your picture." She would never comment back or anything. So I was kind of wondering, why are you still on my friends list? And finally, my uncle last year during BeautyCon, he called me while I was in Dallas, and we caught up. He introduced himself, and he told me who he was, and he said he was my dad's brother and that he found me through my blog. And so I said, okay. And so then he said, yeah, you know that girl, I won't say her name, but Ogazi? And I said, yeah. He said, yeah, that's your cousin. That's my sister who died. You remember earlier in the story I told you guys, a woman died giving birth. She died giving birth, I think, to her little brother. So I was just like, oh, wow, that's my cousin. And I said, well, she added me, but she would always send me these weird messages. And so I just honestly never thought anything of it. So one day I messaged her after me and him talked. It was nice to, but you know, when you've already kind of like, I don't want nothing to do with my Nigerian side of my family. I don't want to go to Nigeria to go see them. I don't care, honestly. And it's not even because I'm bitter. It's because I don't care. Nigeria is not a place that I've ever just like been like, I want to go. So when you have terrible family members, it really doesn't make you want to just like go there. You know what I'm saying? It's not a place I would just want to go. If I go there, it would be with some girlfriends and people that I really like. Anywhere I would go, I would just want to go with people I like, not with them. So, you know, I messaged her and I was like, well, why did you never tell me that you were my cousin? She said, because of the way that you would talk to me on Facebook. And I said, that's because you were calling me baby and you were calling me dear. And I would always comment on her pictures, guys, for years. I would always say, oh, you look great, because she was really into modeling and I just wanted her to feel good about herself, whoever this girl was. She would post so many pictures of herself. So this girl, at this point, there's no way that you could not know that I don't have a relationship with my father. You don't see me ever mention him in these posts. Over 7 years of being friends on Facebook, I don't even have him listed as my father, no pictures, no mention of him, nothing. And this girl knows who I am. I don't know who she is. She added me strictly because she knew I was his daughter, right? So, so we start talking through WhatsApp. And, you know, she's very like, she's saying that, you know, my dad is like a father figure to her, I guess because after her mom died, or something like that. You know, I just figured, okay, my dad is a father figure to her because, you know, I told my uncle, I immediately told him that my dad wasn't shit. My dad had told my uncle that, you know, he was paying for my education, he would give me money every month, and that he had even hired a maid to take care of us while he worked back when I was living in Nebraska. Guys, the maid was the hoe. That was our maid. He said he hired her. He did not. He gave her an allowance for all of us to eat, including my dad. And sometimes she would cook him meals and he would not show up for them, and we had to reap like the consequences for him. So that was that. Now, I told my uncle immediately, because I did not want him to think that, you know, the reason why I'm doing, you know, I'm even like doing decent is because of my dad, and he couldn't believe it. He called my dad, and my dad denied everything. He said I was lying. He said that he's in my life. Guys, listen. Y'all know I talk about my mom all the time. If my dad was in my life, you guys would know it, okay? I would say, oh, I just got the phone with my dad. I would just mention it casually in conversation, so I don't talk to him. This cousin of mine, she goes on Facebook, and she posts a picture sitting on my dad's lap. Now, I have no pictures of my dad really, like even like holding me like that. So I didn't care. I love that my dad is being a father to somebody. I love that somebody is looking up to this man. It gives me hope that he loves somebody as a daughter and that he's guiding someone because he has one out there, and it gives me hope, okay? So I don't care about any of that. I just love the fact that he was loving a little girl and that he had a soft spot for someone, because I know, like I said, guys, I'm a daddy's girl naturally. I loved being around my dad. I loved when he held me. You know, sometimes he never held me, but he would sit me on his lap for like a minute or two, and then I had to get off. But I just love that. I loved whenever he would hug me. I think out of my entire life, my dad has hugged me maybe like 5 times, and it's like whatever, you know, I don't even like miss anything. The simple fact that I just know, okay, you know, if I would be open to it but at this point in my life, no. I don't even want my husband or whoever I marry, I don't want them to ever meet my dad, and that's just it. Like, and it's not even like, it's just, I just don't want it, you know what I mean? So she posts a picture and she says, A father is someone that I can cry on. A father is someone who I can trust. A father is someone who loves me. She wrote this poem and she was talking about my dad while she was sitting on his lap. Out of the 7 years that we've been friends on Facebook, she has never, ever posted a picture of my dad. Ever. Ever. Okay? She has never talked about him being a father. She has never posted a picture of them even together. I have gone through this girl's pictures, okay? Never has she ever posted a picture of my dad. And she didn't do it because she didn't want me to know that she knew my dad and that my dad was taking care of her. My dad has been sending money to her, paying for her schooling, being a guidance to her, loving this girl, right? Which is totally fine. Like I said, guys, I don't care because if I would have known when I was a kid that, you know, there was another little girl who was taking my place who wasn't even his daughter, I would have been hurt because every time he would bring clothes and then he would make us love it and then he would take it home to his family, that just showed me what kind of man he was. But now that I don't even care, because I've gone on with my life and I'm doing other things in my life, I don't care. But she was doing this because she knew that. And she tried to play dumb. And that's when the hood came, and I'm just playing. But that's when I just knew, like, this girl, she ain't shit. And I just had to let her know. She called him her father at the end of the poem. She said, "This is my dad." And what really got me was under the comments, people were saying, "Wow, you look just like your dad." And everything. And I was like, wait a minute, this girl's literally taking me on as a person. Like, what the fuck? You are not his daughter. You are his niece. She was telling people, yes, yeah, I love my dad. Yeah, I know I look just like him in the eyes. She was saying, and yeah, duh, you're related. But she doesn't look like him. I look like him, okay? This girl does not look like my dad. So I had to. This girl was doing this in my face. I wrote under the comments, I said, wow, you know, and I'll insert a picture so you guys can see it. Hopefully, I think I still have it. I'm sure I do. But she says, I told her, you know, I replied to that person. I said, that's not her dad. That's my dad. That's her uncle. And they look good together. And then she said, she deleted him. And I said, I commented again. I said, stop saying that this is your dad. You know, he doesn't even take care of his own children. I was heated. Okay, because at this point I had just took it like she really didn't know. Like, this girl doesn't know me from a hole in a wall. She's just seen my life on Facebook. But she does. She's probably watched my every move. She probably has looked me up on YouTube, everything, you know what I'm saying? This girl knows me. I post my videos on YouTube. So she knows. And that hurt. It hurt because she knew. And we're strangers and you're doing something to hurt me. And I was like, this bitch is not about to play me. So I just let her know in the comments. I was like, you know, I told her in the comments. She ended up deleting the comments. She blocked me on Facebook, which is fine. I don't care. Then on WhatsApp, I don't remember who wrote who, but I was like, okay, let me tell you guys something. The reason why she's taking on my dad as her father is because, first of all, her mom died giving childbirth. Like I said earlier, she was my aunt. And my dad rushed to Nigeria. My dad, first of all, I think my dad went down there for the birth. But he just so happened to be there and she died. Because the dad, he did not want no responsibility of the children. So her dad is somewhere off there. And so my grandparents plus my dad, and like, you know, whenever something like that happens, the village pretty much takes over and they're your parents now. So pretty much she had been kind of like, you know, obviously she had a huge support of a village to raise her. And I just had my mom. And yeah, so that was the story with her. So on Facebook, you know, so we started arguing on WhatsApp, y'all. And this girl, not only did she do this to me, but she really started digging deep. So first of all, you know, one of my siblings are gay, okay? The one I was talking about. And the one who was getting abused. Mentally, we were getting abused, and physically, we were getting abused. And, you know, me and her, you know, we're taking shots at each other during, you know, WhatsApp and stuff. And she was telling me, you know, well, maybe if you were more of a daughter, your dad would acknowledge your existence. obviously she knows I'm a human being because she's the one who added me, you know what I'm saying? And just a couple days before, you know, she was talking about how I am, how she's so happy that I wrote her and that you know, that she found me years ago, but she just was too scared to talk to me. She was the one who was saying that. She was saying how happy she was that we finally found each other and how she wanted me to come to Nigeria. That's what she was telling me, because that's a story everybody gives me, literally, who lives there. So she starts, you know, she can't break me down. You know what I'm saying? She's telling me that I'm not good enough for my dad. Yeah, I don't care. I'm like, whatever, okay. I know that's not true. My dad gave up on the family when I was a kid. He didn't care about my mom, you know, after he got what he needed. He didn't care about nobody, right? He's just using people. So I knew that, and I figured that out on my own. Even my mom still hasn't figured it out. You know what I'm saying? My mom is not the one who's feeding me this. I have gathered this on my own. This girl does it. She does it. She starts going in on my brother. She starts saying, you know, that's why your brother's gay, because, you know, that's why, you know, he doesn't want your dad doesn't want to be around you because your brother's gay. And if he wasn't gay, you wouldn't be going through all the things you're going through, and that's God. You know, all this religious mumbo jumbo that I'm pretty sure she was taught in church or whatever to be super religious. So, first of all, me and my brother have been through everything. We've been through foster care. We are only 2 years apart. We have been obviously mistreated together. My brother is the reason why I even survived my dad's house. Me and him had to use each other to survive because they were turning us against each other. And we were being mentally and physically abused. And I'm just so hurt because, like, she knew what she was doing, and it's like my dad is making people think these things. He tells people that we talk to each other weekly, and that's fine. If he is feeding her lies, that's fine. But this girl intentionally ignored me just to see what I was doing as his daughter. That's what she did. And everything. And she mimics my life, and it's scary, and I don't understand it, and I don't even know why I even start a family, why even, like, have me. Like, why do it? So after she went in on my brother, I was like, no fucking way, you don't do that. My brother is like my dad, even whatever. My brother has been more of a support system than any of my other brothers and sisters, and I would have made it through a lot of situations if it wasn't for him. And I don't care that she doesn't know that. And it doesn't make me a weak person, you know. My brother is so strong. And I went in on her mom. I was like, wait, if my dad doesn't love me because I'm not a woman enough, and my brother's gay, bitch, that's why your mom is dead. I literally told her that. And she got really mad. Well, duh. You know what I'm saying? So I said, well, yeah, your mom wasn't woman enough to finish it out and all that stuff. I really went low, and I don't care what anybody thinks. She knows better. She literally rubbed it in my face that I wasn't good enough, which I don't even think that guys believe me. I love myself. And my dad is not a good representation of nobody. Like, I hate that my mom even acknowledges being married. But she just made me so mad. So I was like, bitch, this is America, and we get real petty over here. I will go low. You went low. I will go high. I hate even saying these things because that is not my personality. First of all, I don't go low like that. I don't need to talk about nobody's mother. I don't want nobody talking about my mother. I don't care to talk about nobody's mom. But, like, you did it. You tried it. This girl really thinks that she's me and that she has, like, the upper hand because she has my dad. And my dad is not, my dad wants, you know, to show himself off and stuff. And I was just like, fuck this girl. So she told me, oh, I wish I never contacted you. I wish I never ever went to go find you. And I was like, good bitch. I told her, fuck you. Fuck your family. Fuck all of y'all. Like, don't ever fucking spy on me again. Get your own life. Literally, I told her, get your own father. Go find your dad. Go find your dad. You can keep mine and have your own dad. So you can have a double, triple support system, okay? You already have all that other stuff. Good for you. You know what I'm saying? And she was like, oh, you know, I did all of this so that we were gonna bring you to Nigeria. I'm like, bitch, we've been friends on Facebook for 7 years. You never tried to bring me to Nigeria. And if I wanted to, I could bring my damn self. My dad does that. He makes promises to look good for people. Don't you get it, you idiot? So after that happened, I felt really bad. I called my uncle and I told him what happened. And he was like, you know, she didn't know that all these things about your dad. Even I didn't know all this stuff. And I was like, that's fine, but she did know. I told my uncle, I was like, she knew that my dad obviously is not in my life because this girl, I was, like I said, 7 years, never posted about my dad on Facebook ever. There's no pictures of them. If you go back, there aren't any pictures of him. Like, what the fuck? And now all of a sudden she's posting all these pictures of him and so obviously she had talked to my uncle, you know what I'm saying? And she felt like, okay, yes, finally I can be real and just post these pictures. But she tried to act like she was scared of me on Facebook, you know what I'm saying? But now, you know, so after all this has happened, this is the end of the story, guys. My dad, you know, I have like a page on Facebook. It's public. At first I had like a public, like just regular Facebook. Now I just have like a blogger page because the personal one was turning too much into like a dating site. People were messaging me then. I was like, okay, let me just make a like page. And now it's like more, you know, better. My dad made a Facebook known. You guys listen, I've looked for my dad for years on Facebook. My dad's girlfriends have contacted us on Facebook when I first made one, okay? Numerous times. And they have all disrespected me for no reason because of my dad. My dad made it seem like to his American girlfriends, he was totally fine with saying that I was a bad person. My mom is horrible. My mom is this. My mom is that. These women, idiotic women, which is why I hate watching reality TV shows and I see them going after the children. I was a teenager, okay? They would message me and be like, you know, your mom is selfish, going after your dad for child support. Just messaging me, saying all kinds of crazy stuff, and I'm backed into a corner because they love my dad and they'll believe anything. They would have their daughters add me on Facebook, and if I ever said anything about, you know, truthful pretty much about my dad and it wasn't in a good light, these girls would tear me apart in the comments, so I would just delete them because I'm not about to be attacked and try to defend myself when I know the truth. I know who you are. I've already peeped your game. We know who you are. You know what I'm saying? You can hide, you can lie, but we know you. And, you know, and so I'm gonna have to go more in detail about that, but I will insert pictures because, you know, I don't play. I will call a person's ass out in a second. My dad takes my banner from my like page and he posts it. He goes on my page and he posts like Chinyere, you know, hi Chinyere, and just, you know, he's posting publicly. This man has not, guys, listen, I haven't talked to my dad since 2009 maybe. Nothing. And all of a sudden he finds me on YouTube and now he's like, oh my gosh, I want everybody to know, like, my daughter and all kinds of stuff. So he posts my banner on his page, on his Facebook page. Then he starts commenting on my wall and all kinds of stuff. And he will not even acknowledge my brother, the one who had the worst experience. And I keep crying, you know, whatever. He had the worst time pretty much at my dad's house. My dad treated him the worst. Because he was older, he was getting treated the worst, and really, just like really bad stuff happened to him while we were there. And it was under my dad's care and he knew it. So yeah, I have never responded to him. My dad has never reached out to me. He has my number. My uncle is not really even talking to my dad because he doesn't want to associate with liars. And plus my dad does not return his calls after he found out the truth. Which is why my dad has kept family members from speaking to us and stuff. So yeah, guys, that was the story of my dad. And if you're wondering why you're never gonna hear about him again, and I don't care to like go to Nigeria and all those places because I want to go to see people who love me and that want to see me. You know, I don't want to go home, which is not home to me, to a bunch of delusional, fictional, superficial assholes who could give a fuck whether I live or die. They just want to look good for people, and you can't even take that shit with you. I grew up extremely different. And I'll talk about my mom in another story. She gets her own story time, and she probably will sit in with it, but she probably won't. So I won't let her. But my mom is a very, very non-superficial person to the T. Her and my dad are polar opposites. My mom doesn't have to live for show because she knows her truth. So it was so hard going from living a very like organic, like just, you know, everything is fit for face value, to going to living like in hiding and just lying for years of my life. And then for me to be a very like open person just naturally because of the way I was raised, to go on to having to like live another lie, it sucks. So yeah guys, that was the story of my dad. I hope you guys enjoyed this story time. I hate that I got like super emotional, but I was like, if I don't sit down and do it now, I'll never do it. Anyway, I love you guys so much. Feel free to comment anything or whatever, and you guys tell your story. Just tell it. No, but like, what's the worst that's gonna what's the worst that's gonna happen? Anyway, I love you guys so much. Thank you for watching. Love ya. Bye.